Good morning students, welcome back to Triveni Memorial Senior Secondary School online classes. Students, today we are going to start one of our another chapter from class 6 in history, that is vital villages and thriving towns. Firstly, iron tools and agriculture. You know this thing very well student, that around 2500 years ago we discovered iron and it is used in making different tools and specifically those one which are used in agricultural fields like plowshares, like sickles, etc. There is other steps to increase production. Irrigation, you know we used to irrigate our fields, so there are certain steps that we use to increase the production of our crops or for making betterment or improvement in our irrigation system. Firstly, obviously the availability of cheap labor. Secondly, the farmers benefited from the crop production. If they are producing it, they are going to sell it in the market and getting money in return. Then is farmers also need to pay the taxes on the produced crops. And the last one is king provide money and plan irrigation work so that maximum amount of production from a particular field can be done. Thereafter students, next question is who lived in the villages? Obviously students, agriculturalists or those persons who were involved in production of crops or agricultural work will live in villages. You can say large landowners are there, landless laborers are there, forced laborers are there. Now see particular names are given here. If we talk about Tamil, then in Tamil large landowners are called as Vellalar, whereas ordinary plowshare or small landowners, they were known as Uzzavar. Remember, these terms are specially connected or specially used in Tamil only. Thereafter, if we talk about the north part of our country, then in the north part of our country there is one special designation or one special post, that is of Grama Bhojka. Basically he is the head of the villages, of the units you can say, and he had certain functions that he need to perform. Sometimes he is responsible for collecting taxes from the people. Sometimes he also act as judge, that is involved in solving the conflicts that arise between the people. He also serves as policeman. And thereafter students, what we can say, that if apart from the Grama Bhojka, there are other persons also who are independent farmers, that is they are not dependent on anyone else like forced labor, and those were called as Grihapatis. But Grihapatis are comparatively small landowners as compared to your Grama Bhojka. And what sort of work they have to do, I already told you, involved in collecting taxes, and thereafter I told you act as policeman, etc., as judge. Thereafter students, they also involved some craft persons were also found in villages like blacksmith, porter, carpenter, weaver, etc. Then is finding out about cities, stories, travelers, sculpture and archaeology. It is but obvious students, today how we come to know that this particular place was there, that used to exist, because of the various sculptures, because of the various stories, because of the travelers, that is the evidences that are present there with us. And who provided these evidences to us? These are provided by the archaeologists or the historians. And if we talk about stories, then these stories regarding the life of the journal people are wrote in the form of jatakas. So what are jatakas? Jatakas are the stories. And who used to preserve these stories, these written facts, these jatakas? Buddhist monk used to preserve these stories. Thereafter you can see here, in many of the areas, as I already told you that our archaeologists discovered evidences, so at many of the places we found many of the sculptures in which various inscriptions were written, right? I told you inscription on the hard surfaces, like they were written to decorate the railings, pillars, gateways on various buildings, etc. You can say here, after carving the particular surface on that, that particular writing is done. Now you can see about one another topic, that is Mahajanapadas. About that we have already studied in chapter 5, where we talk about that these are fortified palaces or fortified walls are there in order to protect these palaces from attack from their enemies. And other than ceramic rings are available in circle on one standing on the row of other ceramic ring. In that arrangement, garbage dumps are present. And thereafter, students, what is there? Our archaeologists, our historians have developed many other things. People were involved in doing or manufacturing bricks, in making the sculptures or inscriptions make of wood, etc. And why they are doing all sort of these things? In order to earn their livelihood, so that they can survive. And to gain more knowledge about past, we can also, last topic, remember we talk about the headline travelers. Travelers, whenever we are talking about travelers, we can take example of the various sailors. Sailors means, and especially here Greek sailor reference is given, the person who is sailing via boat from a particular or ship from a particular place to some other designation. The ports that they visit is the things that they collected with them and how they approaches there. These things also told us or gives information about those people or those area. Then regarding coins, all of you know this thing, that this sort of currency was prevailed in every kingdom or every empire with a particular punch mark or stamp marked on each coin in all the different sort of periods. Thereafter, students, cities with many functions. Yes, different cities are there who have different functions. Some cities are responsible for administrative functions, some cities are responsible for commercial functions. Some commercial purpose means where trading activities used to take place. Some cities are there which are great source for religious purpose. So you can take the example here, Mathura example is given. You can see here that Mathura was the capital of Kushana, and obviously it was one of the religious center where all the Jains shrines and monasteries were available. And even today also we know this thing about its religious prospectus, that is, it is the place which is responsible for the worship of Lord Krishna. And other than for what other purpose Mathura is famous? It is famous for the production of various art activities. So these are the examples given regarding one of the city, that is Mathura. And other inscriptions, that is carved things or writing crafts on hard surfaces, is also mentioned here, where we talk about different monasteries and shrines. We seen the writings or the words written for various kings, queens, officers, merchants that used to do work as porters, weavers, blacksmith, etc. in the particular city, is involved in making perfume and etc. The last one is your crafts and craft persons. I already told this thing to you that we have evidences which proved, our historiologicals provide us these evidences which prove that the early people were involved in various sort of craft production activities. Now see what is there. If we talk about one of the archaeological evidence, especially regarding the fine poetry pieces that we discovered, then that is known as Northern Black Polished Ware, and BPW, where we are talking about these were fine poetry, example of fine poetry. Thereafter you can see here why these people needs to do this craft work, manufacture of pots and other things, so that they can survive. And these persons, these craft persons are finds in different part of the country. Like if we talk about north, they are present in Varanasi. If we talk about south, they were present in Madurai, which is there in south, that is in Tamil Nadu region, of course. So different craft person, different merchants, They were there and they were involved in producing different finished products. Either pots are there, weavers are there, smiths are there, etc. And these merchants who are involved in production of these things organize themselves into a particular association, to a particular group of their own, and deposited their money. So this group, this association formed by them, that is called as Shrenis, and they have their own religious monasteries, own religious culture. And then is Arikamedu. Now what is Arikamedu? Arikamedu is basically one of the coastal place or coastal settlements where we used to unload all sort of goods. As I am already telling you that this is one of the ports, so all sort of things or goods that arrived from different places, they got unboarded at this place at Arikamedu. That is why it is of utmost important. And thereafter we founded different double-handled jars here, pots as we discussed earlier, stamp read glazed poetry is there, clay molds, stamp molds, all these things, Roman lamps, clapware, all these things were present here, because this is one of the port, one of the coastal designated area from where all sort of these goods got exported to some other particular destination. So that is there. So thereafter students, what is there? Small tanks are also found in this area, from where we have find wet tanks, molds, dykes, weavers, and many other things. So students, that's it about our chapter. Hope you understand the chapter very well. And now we will discuss with the question answers ahead. So let's begin. First one is your fill in the blanks. Dash was a word used for large landowners in Tamil. We discussed valular. Then is the Grama Bhojka often bought his land cultivated by slaves or landless laborers. Then is plugmen were also known as Ujavar in Tamil. We discussed this term. Most Grihapatis were small landowners. Then is describe the functions of Grama Bhojka. We already discussed. He act as judge, act as policeman, responsible for collecting taxes. Then your next question, students, is list the craft persons who would have been present in both villages and cities. Porters can be there, performers can be there, blacksmiths, status makers, perfumers, carpenters, merchants, etc. Choose the correct answer. Ring wells were used for. Then these options are given. Ring wells were used for your drainage. Then your punch marked on coins, they were made of silver. Mathura was important for, we have discussed, Lord Krishna city, religious center. Shrines were associations of merchants. This was also question which we discussed. Then is these are some of the important tools which were made of iron. Then is in your locality, you mentioned drainage system, and you need to compare that drainage system with the earlier one. Nowadays drainage system is far better than the earlier one, because in earlier times certain similarities are also there and differences are also there. So basically these garbage dumps are or these drainage were completely covered, which avoids the spread of mosquitoes, flies, and other diseases, and of course also prevents spreading diseases. So craft person work we also know, weavers, potters, and they were involved in all sort of work. And how we used to, the next question is how did they work? They work in associations, in groups, and these associations were called as Shrenis. What happened to the finished products? They were exported or sold to some other places. And the last question is the functions of the man and woman who lived in city and villages. We discuss people who are living in cities are involved in some other sort of activities, who are living in villages are blacksmith, masons, carpenters. Villages, they are agriculturalists or forced labor. Cities, blacksmith, mason, potters, etc. So students, that's it about our chapter. Hope you understand the chapter very well. Thank you so much, students.